We're going to start off with this news of Mr. Thomas Tuchel, who got sacked by Todd Boehly. I'll start with you, Matthew, because you found out when we dropped it in the group chat earlier on today. But what's your take on this whole news that's come out?
Oh, well, nothing changes, really, does it? Nothing changes. It's almost as if it worked for Roman, it's going to work for me. I'm upset about it because I said at the beginning that it might be a chance to be a bit more sustainable about how we do things. So I thought he would, get a little bit more time, maybe at least until halfway through the season after the World Cup to see where things go. He has bought essentially 6 or 7 new players, so it's going to take time to kind of weed out to figure out what he has, and then eventually it will all come good. We already know we're not doing anything in the league. We're not going to even challenge for it, and it already looks like Champions League could potentially be a struggle. So let's at least, have that year of experimentation for the money that we spent, and then see how it comes out at the end. As long as we're in the top 4, I think we're going to be very pleased about that. But on one hand, I feel for him because towards the end of the year, after that stuff came out with Lukaku and the sanction and the almost fact that we were almost on the brink of non-existence, he did manage to drag us to a 3rd place finish. And we got to 2 cup finals last year. We won, 4 cup finals, technically, if we're looking at it. It's the Club World Cup, Super Cup, Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. So that's 4 cup finals. He won 2 of them. That's where the problems start. Domestic, your bread and butter. He lost out there. Standards started to drop after the last international break. Certain games we shouldn't be losing. And all right, he's bought all these new players. We don't know what our team is. A lot of the players were being played out of position. And you look back at it and think, when you add all those things together, at the same time, I'm not happy about it, but I'm just not surprised by it, because it's just the kind of thing that I'm getting the kind of vibes when Mourinho last left. I'm getting those kind of vibes where the results started going really. It's a combination of the two. How he went away in 07-08 and 15-16. It's a combination of the two, because 07-08 it came out of nowhere. But also saying how the performances since, even from before the end of last season, started to dip. It's that certain players weren't singing from the hymn book. Certain players wanted to leave. Some did, some didn't. And certain players just getting played far too many times. So it's just a combination of so many things that have led towards his dismissal. Not all of it's his fault. It would have been nice to see him get a little bit longer. Again, because I want to try and get out of this kind of constant shuffling and changing of managers, because it's expensive on top of the 250 million we've already spent. And I think at one point he was looking at a contract extension for them to be then chucked out. So I'm disappointed. The TT's been left no wheels, sitting on bricks. It's not rolling no more. I know it's just, or if someone else wants it, take it. We've lost out a whole bunch of money, but it's disappointing. It's disappointing. I thought the circus had stopped, but same circus, different management.
Well, some things never change, and I'm glad you guys are very consistent with or without Roman. I want to jump over to you, Markus, just about this issue, because I have a few things I want to bring up as well, but I just wanted to get your perspective on what's happened and what's your take on this decision. Do you agree with it? Do you think it's premature? Or are you, like me, just happy to see another one of the rivals make have a potentially, slippery position?
Yeah, look, I think it's madness, really, when you think about it. Chelsea spent £250 million and clearly with some ambition to sign Thomas Tuchel type players. So, Aubameyang, for example, was clearly a Tuchel signing, deadline day, someone who he wanted, someone who he's really enjoyed, having before, and looking forward to come back and teaming up with. And you just have to look at the decision and think, although you saw it coming, you probably could have given it, up until the international break, even maybe a little longer, and kind of seen how it played out. We all know Chelsea have had a bad start, and that they expect better, but nonetheless, I think for me, I think it's a strange decision, considering the nature of the signings and the way that they were looking to move forward, and what Chelsea have done only in the last year and a half under Tuchel. I think he probably deserves some more grace, but nonetheless, as a Liverpool fan, you do have to look at it and think, okay, well, Chelsea are probably not going to be, in the rivalry and in the competition this year. So fair enough. We've had a bad start too. So I'll take any other of the top six having bad starts just to help us out along the way.
Yeah, I think my only concern with that is who they bring in next. Because obviously they've been given permission by Brighton to speak to Graham Potter. That's the one manager that, and again, it could work in one of two ways, right? Graham Potter has never had a massive team to manage. We've seen with Rodgers when he got that job at Liverpool, didn't quite get it over the line, but there was enough shoots to show the potential of what was possible. Obviously, your massive upgrade to Klopp kind of bore that to fruition. I'm not comparing Klopp and Rodgers because that again is like comparing a Rolls Royce to a banged out Mini. It's just like, what's the point? But I think it can show you the benefit of moving to a manager that's got a lot of a good reputation, is highly rated, giving him a top job, how it can bear dividends. However, that being said, there's a lot about this sacking that I think we should get into a bit more. There's been a lot of talk. I know Matt Law, journalist, who has a lot of good connections into Chelsea. A lot of Chelsea fans don't like him because sometimes he says stuff which they think isn't true. In fact, he was the first one that started to indicate that there were some issues in the camp, that some of the players weren't really happy with Thomas Tuchel. Some of them weren't happy with the tactical decision making that was being done. Some of the decisions around the formation, how they want to play. There's even like an amazing article in the Telegraph today talking about the sacking, and there's a nice little section here that basically says that a lot of the players was frustrated with team selections, the surprises, players being left out, people being played in different positions. So he kind of, I think he lost, obviously, just the dressing room. He himself wasn't happy with this responsibility he had this summer in terms of what his impact and his input over transfers. He wanted to have less of a role. The previous system was better for him. Petr Cech being let go, he wasn't happy with. One of the big fallouts between him and Todd Boehly was over Ronaldo. Todd Boehly wanted to sign Cristiano Ronaldo this summer. Thomas Tuchel said no. Todd Boehly then wanted to understand why. Thomas Tuchel didn't feel like he needed to justify why he didn't want that striker to mess up what they had planned. So there was already tension and friction. And in fact, I think one of the things that I saw today was that Todd Boehly and his team, they want a manager that they can collaborate with. I feel like their ideas will be listened to. And Tuchel is very clear as to how he wants to play football and what he wanted to have. And talking about the football, for me, and I've said this before in the previous podcast, I haven't seen the real Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea. I know you won the Champions League. I know you won the Club World Cup. I know you've done really well from a success perspective, but the football has been a bit lacking. For you, Matthew, looking back on his era, do you feel like he could have done more, or are you happy with what he did for you, all things considered?
I've always said that I felt like he's hit fifth, fifth gear. I just felt that six was just not, it never really reached that sixth gear that he could have got, or dare I say, should have got. He should have got to that sixth gear of all the players that he has. He's done it at PSG, he's done it at Dortmund, goals galore, and exciting forward play. But when he got to us, kind of unpacking a lot of what was unlearned from even time at Jose Mourinho. A lot of players have been there since Mourinho. It's almost as if they felt like that was a default. A lot of the players were used to playing that kind of way if things went wrong. And it showed in the games that we've lost. Look at all the games we've started this year. Again, all the 6 games in the league and last night. We start off good. And, if a goal comes from it, great. But what happens is, if they score, or if we're not feeling it, we just go into default. We go into limp home mode. It's properly safety mode, where with players like Ziyech, with players like Havertz, with players like... Even if players like Havertz and Mount out of position, there's still something that can be had to keep on chucking the ball forward. I respect, with all the money you're getting, you're out of position. But I'm sorry, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You're there to kind of to be creative, try something new, try something different. You're footballers, for crying out loud. Some of these things you've learned in the park or on the street. So, get it together. I don't buy that. But going back to what I was saying before, it's like there was no initiative to kind of try something a little bit different. Lukaku is a big one. As much as I don't feel we're playing to his strengths, there is something that could be done. If you look at Haaland, see what he's doing. He got in I saw something where it compared the goals after how many games, how many goals each player's got. Haaland's flying, and he scored again last night. And he's probably going to score again the next game. Let's be real. But that comes from that kind of, taking charge, that initiative, that kind of assertiveness. That's all we kind of lack, and I hope we get from Aubameyang.
But also, I think the other big difference is that Man City have a very settled, stable, and happy way of playing. I know players like Jack Grealish aren't really fully expressing themselves, but there's a way of playing which works for them. I think you guys haven't really quite figured out what type of a team you are. Even the fact that in midfield, there's this debate over should Kante play, should Gallagher play, should Jorginho play, like the fact that you don't have a settled system and a settled 11, I think is a bigger part of the problem as well.
Because of lack of a striker. For a long time, there's also a lack of a striker. And with that midfield debate, you can play them.
But you had a striker last season.
Yeah, and so you tuck his tail in Christmas, and that didn't work.
I'm sorry, you had no. We can't let them gonna pull up on that. But you had Lukaku.
Yeah,
he did it. He does exist. He was your striker. He still is your striker.
Technically is, but yeah, he decided Christmas time. I don't know, we had some like nice turkey or something, or some mince pie or spike or something. And the son decided something Italian. I don't know. Going with the boy, he's off in Italy. Long may he stay. That was his fault. That was his own personal fault. But yeah, I get what you mean. How I look at the formations for before the games start, and I'm thinking that was different from before. Yet the same players are kind of still there. I do want to say this though, is that I feel like it's a case of player power doing its thing again, which is never a good thing to see.
Yeah,
never a good thing to see. And certain individuals, I'm not going to necessarily pick them out, but I think they have had a certain thing to say.
Dig them out. We want names.
Certain ones that kind of stunk him out. They weren't performing lately. I think Havertz and Mount, they've kind of stunk him out. Mendy's lately stunk him out. Ziyech just thinking out because he wants to go. Pulic just thinking out because he wants to go. Hudson-Odoi, he went. Werner, he went.
We can't say Hudson-Odoi did. I can't even say he stunk the place out.
We got rid of him.
No, but for me, with Hudson-Odoi, it's not even like he stunk the place out. You know when like you're okay. You know when you're expecting like a really big burp to come out, yeah, and then like you're bracing yourself for it, and like barely a sound comes out. That's Hudson-Odoi, but continue.
Well, because he was loaned and not sold. Rudiger, one of the best examples of a guy who should have stayed. We should have got on our knees for him to stay, and he's off doing the business in Real Madrid. I can go on. Marcus Alonso, thank God he's gone. Christensen, AC Penitentiary was shut down last year. I don't know what went wrong. And then what was the other one? Dave, good old Dave, Azpilicueta. Rose-tinted set of spectacles off, probably said he shouldn't be playing that much anymore. I don't think he should be. I mean, yeah, I think player power has definitely done his thing, but I think he got his favourites. They always play. They're never shown. And even when they don't play, well, at least when they don't start, likes of Havertz, scored against West Ham, not starting. I think he started last night, and look where that went. Actually, you know what? Shout out to Zagreb. Because I didn't show him that much of respect when I saw, because I was out at the time. I saw the highlights tonight. You know what? They did the basics. They weren't even amazing. All they did was, playing Chelsea ain't that hard nowadays. Just do the fundamentals and we crumble.
They played well against you.
They did.
But, I want to ask you this question, Marcus, before we go on to the next topic, because we could sit on Chelsea all day, but frankly, I'm just glad that another club is going through turmoil. After everyone laughed at my club for first 3 games of last season, well, you ain't laughing now, are you? Unless you're United. But what do you feel like there were warning signs to the issues at the club at Chelsea last season? And how do you feel like the back end of last season and the start to this season have contributed to this ending?
Yeah, look, I think Chelsea have had problems since Roman Abramovich decided to, become buddy with Vladimir Putin, and everything went downhill from there for Chelsea. I think, and I think Chelsea have had underlying problems since then, and new owners and. Obviously, these new owners have some clear idea of the types of players that they want to sign, which I think is positive because there is a profile. Like Chelsea are building forward in a certain way that I do wonder, when they look at approaching the likes of Graham Potter, if he fits the bill as quite a structured long-term manager that can take these young, hungry English players. You could Mason Mount, Raheem Sterling.
Reece
Reece James,
Chilwell.
Fofana, Chilwell, Gallagher. Like, there's a real good solid base. But the thing that's strikingly surprising about it is Chelsea have never built this way before. So if they are to hire Potter, are they going to give him time? Are they going to allow him to bed in and build a system over a long period of time? This doesn't strike me as an overly Chelsea thing to do, which makes me more think that the better call is to go and hire Zidane or go and try and hire Pochettino and go for a manager that's already established, that's not going to necessarily worry about the style and the way you want to move forward. But I do wonder if Chelsea are looking to do something new, to do something different. And if they are, do they have the patience to see that through? But I do think it's been clear for a little while that Tuchel has seemingly lost the dressing room. The results have not helped him, and the new owners have clearly decided that they want something different and have decided that significantly early into their tenure. But what's been then surprising about that is some of the decisions then made, like Aubameyang and like everything that happened around Ronaldo. If this was the conclusion that they'd already decided, why not forget Aubameyang on deadline day and go into the season with what you have, considering the fact that a week later, you're firing a manager. So they clearly had already had this in mind long before Zagreb, because apparently there was that 100-day period in which they decided that they was going to be assessing things.
So very American.
Yeah, no, very much so. But look, I think the writing has been on the wall a little bit for Chelsea. But at the same time, let's see how they move forward. I think it'll be interesting. Are they going to do something new? And if they are they going to have patience for that something new? And I think they're the big questions that are ahead for Chelsea and that are ahead for Matthew in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, I think the most interesting statistic, obviously this is 100 games for Thomas Tuchel. There was a Chelsea fan that said 100 down, 101 next, and many more to go, and obviously didn't reach 101. But you look at the first 50 games, you kept 31 clean sheets in his first 50 games in charge. His last 50 games in charge, you kept 18. You went from conceding 24 goals to 53.
Owie.
I think therein lies the problem. Now, you won more games. No, you drew more games. But clearly, the defensive solidity, that which what defined his way of playing and managing, went out the window. And obviously, if there were issues with the ownership and when you lose dressing room and lose key players, it's very hard to keep your job. And I think we've seen that time and time again. Like you said, player power is a concern. And I think if Potter is given the job, and I think Markus, you make a great point about going for an experienced manager, because if the players turn around and see Graham Potter's hired, and if you're Billy Big Bollocks and you feel like, hold on a minute, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Why are we hiring the Brighton guy? He ain't nobody. I ain't going to respect him. What's Boehly going to do then? Will he bow to pressure, or will he kick out those players? People laughed at trust the process, but all I can say is a certain number 10 got sacked from his dream club. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Sacked from his dream childhood club, had to go rebuild his career in another club. All right? That's all. Trust the process.
Talking about trust the process, I think that, if I'm in Chelsea's situation, if this is any other club, I'm going for Graham Potter. He is potentially a world-class manager. He has done a terrific job at Brighton, establishing success over a number of years. You could maybe ask the better question, why would Graham Potter want to go to Chelsea?
Ooh.
Because fundamentally, Graham Potter would be fired within 6 months of bad results. I don't understand personally the move unless they present it to him in this appealing project way, offer him a long contract. But it would be very, very new for Chelsea. And Potter rejected Spurs back in the time when Spurs tried to hire 400 managers in one weekend, and rightly so, I think, for the reasons of the fact that he felt as though if he moved to Spurs, it wouldn't be something in which he'd get the time that he needed to build and establish. And how's that any different to Chelsea? The Chelsea dressing room is probably far more toxic, much more player power going on there. I'm not sure that I'd make the move if I was Graham Potter, but if I'm Chelsea, Graham Potter would be my number one target. based on the potential moving forward.
You know what? You make a good point there. I think for you, Matthew, like, obviously, this will be like our last point, and we'll move on to something else. But like, just thinking of the realities of it, right? Graham Potter's the one they've approached. The other list of names they had was Pochettino.
Zidane.
You had Zinedine Zidane.
I heard Thomas.
Some people were saying
Thomas Frank.
I didn't hear him, but that's interesting. Some people were even saying Luis Enrique, a manager to wait for. I say, Jose, one last dance. Let's have it. Let's have it. Third time's a charm, surely. One more time in the Premier League. Fourth time out, But for you, who would if Potter is the manager that comes in, how would you want the club to approach it? And if you don't go for Potter, who would be your other preferred choice?
Oh, if they went for Potter, which I'm very kind of the more I hear it and more I talk about it, I really like it, because another great point on it is that he's overperformed with the squad that he's had. He hasn't had buckets of money. Players come in, players come out. They lost the Cucurella's just gone over time. They've recently lost Mopé as well. And, which the one problem they had was the football they play is great, but one thing is they're lacking goals. But they don't seem again. It doesn't need to be bothering them right now. And the football's great, and great to see entertaining football again. Maybe that sixth gear could be reached with those players. This is what I said before, again, towards the end of last season when Boehly first came in, is that there has to be a slight change of the culture, like Markus said. Gone are the ways of just simply firing managers after a few bad results. I get, Tuchel spent the money, but at the same time, there was always friction there. There was always disagreements there with the whole Ronaldo thing, which I thought was a bit strange. I would have welcomed it, because he did quite well, but it was weird nonetheless. But let's go like a new direction. Let's start giving these people time. Let's be more sustainable. If it takes, Liverpool didn't get there straight away with Klopp. You didn't get there straight away with Arteta. It's only just starting to.
Let's not put Arsenal into this debate. Yeah, we're a special case. Carry on.
But for the first time in a long time, everyone seems to be on board. Yes, you had the setback, but people are on board. And I think that's what we're missing right now. We need for everyone to be singing the same sort of thing, so that if he does come in, just to realise it's not going to click straight away. Then we need to learn a bit more about the patience sort of thing, and how. But it's a very hard thing to unlearn after 20 years of instant success. You never know. If we stick to it and it goes well, this could breed even more further and better success. Purely for the quality of football. And let's be real, the man knows how to work a bargain, and he's seasoned. Has obviously had time at Brighton and Swansea, and I think he bought Ostersunds from Sweden. I think he got them 3 promotions back to back, and got them into the Europa League knockouts about 4 years ago. So he knows about, as far as building goes, he's well aware of the risk he's at. But at a club like Chelsea, which is probably going to be his biggest opportunity to date, he must be excited by the prospect of that. But I also get what Mark is saying, is that, do we deserve him? What can we do? What can we provide him? So he's probably my number one choice. If not him, we could go down the status quo of what we used to. I think Zidane is a good shot, but he'll want more money. He'll want more money that I think. And again, he wants someone he wants to collaborate with. Zidane's not the most cooperative person, if we're being honest.
Well, I mean, so I would guess with Zidane, he did demand what he wanted from Florentino Perez, but he could justify it based on what he'd done in his career. I think what's interesting just in this whole debate about or discussion around Graham Potter is that didn't you sell Billy Gilmore to Brighton?
We did sell Billy.
So you sold Frank Lampard's favourite son to Brighton, then you bring in the manager from there. How ironic. But Frank, why not consider Frank to come? I'm joking.
No. He can stay in Merseyside. He can stay in Merseyside.
Yeah, I think he might feel like he should be in with a shout for this job.
Why?